Welcome back. You're watching Newslink on ENCA. Now, financial difficulties often result in anxiety and a lot of stress. Now, this can negatively impact our mental health or exacerbate an existing problem. About 46% of people suffer from mental health issues in South Africa, and it's important that one seeks assistance before reaching a crisis point. For more on this, we've got our entrepreneur this Sunday, Paulvia Shiburi from PS Debt Management. Thank you very much for joining us in studio this morning, and we will get into the issues around debt and mental wellness. But before we do, tell us a little bit about PS Debt Management and why you decided to start the business. I assume PS is your name and surname.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really do appreciate this time. When I first started working as a sales consultant, I was working for one of the biggest debt review companies. And before then, I literally had no idea what debt review was and how people can get out of debt. But the minute I got into the industry, I realized that there are a lot of people that need help with their debts. And there's just not enough debt counselors to take on the number of people that are actually getting into debt. So I wanted to be part of a solution. And I decided that I want to help people get out of debts. I've personally been in debts myself, so I know what it's all about, what the frustrations and the hard work that you have to put in, and just not having enough to sustain your family. It's such a big issue right now. So I wanted to be part of the solution and decided that, look, I want to help people like myself who have also been over indebted and that they can actually live a debt-free life.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the challenges that you had along your journey to becoming an entrepreneur, quitting a job to focus on a business. What were some of the challenges that you encountered along the way in your journey?
When I started my business, I literally had nothing. I only had a broken laptop. But I had a vision. I had a vision and I knew what I wanted. As much as it was hard to actually get there, I knew that some way, somehow, I will get, I'll make it successful. I'll be in, I want to be recognized as one of the leading females in this industry, because this debt review industry, it's mostly led by men. So I wanted to be a woman among them that is actually doing phenomenal things. So it was hard because I had literally no capital to start with. Literally everybody that has assisted me to get to where I am. I mean, I remember there's one who sponsored me with a table while I was working from home, and then I got one who eventually sponsored me with a laptop, eventually, because my laptop was so broken that the screen cracked while I was busy in a consultation with a client. So it was one of those embarrassing challenges. And I mean, if something like that happens, nobody's going to take you serious.
The credibility, yeah.
And it was hard, but it was totally worth it.
Yeah. Where are you sitting now as a business? Are you in a comfortable space where you are comfortable with the level that you've been able to penetrate the market?
Currently, we are sitting, we're still young, but we are growing. There's a lot of growth. We have grown so much in just the short space of time. And that is because of the dedication and, of course, the people that you meet, that you encounter in life that are able to just edify your brand and to work on your brand and make sure that you actually become relevant in this industry. So we are still young, but we are growing, and it's been so great. The journey has been, it has been rocky, but it has been so fulfilling.
On the journey, obviously, you are engaging different clients who have issues around debt. Have you found that enough of us as South Africans know that resources of this nature exist? And those of us who do know are afraid because we wonder about, what does this mean for my credit worthiness 10 years after I have been through a debt counseling process?
I think a lot of people that don't know much about the debt review, what it entails. And reason is because there's just a few things, or rather the negative that has been put out in the media, that for an example, if you are under debt review, that you won't be able to obtain credit even after you've completed the process.
So that's a misconception.
Yeah, it's a misconception. So there's just too much negativity right now that people are just not willing to listen and understand what debt review entails. But it has actually been proven to be more effective than other remedial actions in South Africa that we have, because reason why it has become effective is that you get to keep your assets while you are in the process, and you pay what you can afford to pay. There's nothing as good as having the assets that you want to keep, and also being able to fulfill your debt obligations, and at the same time be able to sustain your family.
Yeah, and I mean, the mental health component of it is quite significant, because there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress, there's worry. Where am I going to get the money to pay Peter or whatever? Tell us about that, and the engagements that you've had with clients and dealing with the mental health component.
I would say that majority of the clients that have applied for debt counseling with us, most of them have some form of mental health issue, whether it is anxiety, stress, depression. Because now when you are dealing with this burden of carrying so many, being over indebted rather, it can take a tremendous toll on one. I mean, if you are to think about every single night, you don't even have peace of mind. The creditors are calling you every single day, demanding money that you don't even have. So it can take a tremendous toll on their mental health. And we have picked up that a lot of people that have applied for debt counseling either suffer from anxiety, stress, or depression. And I remember I once assisted this one client who said to me, for 3 years, I was not able to buy anything for my kids on payday. A simple thing as just this pizza, I wasn't able to do that. But since I have entered the debt review process, I now have money to sustain my family. And I believe that it's such things that, they give you hope also as a debt counselor, that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And there's still a lot of education around debt review that still needs to be done, so that everybody can pretty much understand, consumers can understand that applying for debt review or debt counseling does not mean that is the end of the world. There are people who apply for debt counseling 2 times, 3 times in their lifetime. So that tells you that the process is effective.
Yeah, and I mean, is it a completely voluntary process, or is it one that you might be forced by a creditor at some point to be like, we need our money, so you're going to have to do this? Most
of the time it is a voluntary process. The only time where a creditor will tell you to apply for debt counseling, it's if they have issued a section 129 that gives you, I think it's about 10 business working days, I believe, and that you need to pay up the arrears or speak to a debt counselor. So it's only at that time where they'll recommend debt counseling if you have not been paying and they've tried by all means to try to get money out of you and you're just not able to. But most of the time it is a voluntary process.
And I mean, it's a difficult time for your clients, but I suppose it's a good time for the business, because over the last 2 years with COVID and people losing jobs and getting fewer salaries, they've had to rely on unsecured debt to get by. So with that, some final thoughts from you in terms of someone watching and wanting to get into the industry, or is already in the industry but is struggling themselves to get by. What kind of advice would you give an entrepreneur who may want to venture into this business?
I would say that you need to have a vision. You need to have a vision. Without vision, you have nothing. I mean, you need to know what it is that you want. You need to understand what you're getting yourself into. And you need to understand that it's also not going to be like a walk in a path. There are going to be a lot of challenges. I mean, I myself have encountered a lot of challenges, even with creditors. When you're still young and you're still growing, you get bullied in the industry. So it's not an easy journey. But I believe that if you have a vision and you are determined and you're able to work hard and work through it, then you should be able to get to where you need to get to.
Thank you so much for giving us some of your time and some excellent advice to end our conversation on. Thank you very much for joining us. That is Paulvia Shiburi from PS Debt Management, talking us through herself as a business and an entrepreneur, but also the challenges in the industry that are faced by many South Africans who found themselves over-indebted because of the current times.